With the NBA draft just a mere few days away, today we are going to go through a mock draft of the lottery and take an in-depth look at every single one of the prospects that I think is going to go top 14 in the draft, especially who I think the Raptors are going to take. Let's get into it. Welcome NBA and Raptors fans to Amateur Hour Sports. This is the channel where you get NBA content with a focus on the Toronto Raptors at least 4 days a week. That is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. This is your Monday episode where we're switching it up and doing an NBA mock draft for the lottery. So if you like what you see from today's video, want more of myself talking about the NBA in videos and content just like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below to show support to the channel. Again, different type of video today. We're going to do a mock draft, so I'm going to switch into the other setup for this one. Very long video, but we go in depth on all 14 of the prospects, so make sure you stick around and get to know a little bit more about the prospects. If you have any questions about any of the prospects you expect to go in the lottery, you are going to get those questions answered today. So let's get into it. So welcome guys to a very special episode of Amateur Hour Sports. We're doing the NBA lottery mock draft picks 1 through 14. This is like the hardest I have ever worked to put together a video for your guys' enjoyment. So seriously, if you do enjoy the video at any point, make sure to leave a like on the video and consider subscribing. It would really help us get some new viewers, bring new viewers to this video. And I think that you guys are absolutely going to enjoy it. Since we have a long video today, let's get started with the content. So let's get on with the first overall pick. We got, obviously, Cade Cunningham going to the Detroit Pistons. It is an absolute no-brainer in this situation. Cade Cunningham is by far the best player in the draft. He's always been projected to go number 1, and I can't see Detroit messing this one up. It's impossible for them to mess this one up. Just look at these stats. Absolutely elite. There are so many good things about his game. He's that jumbo guard style with an insane basketball brain. He can score at any level of the court, and he's gifted at doing it. You can talk about how he's a playmaker, he's a rebounder, he scores, he makes his teammates better. He's got those big moment type of intangibles that I'm covering a little bit. And he's got some insane upside. There's no way they're going to mess this one up. Weaknesses, there really are none because his basketball mind, you don't really need the explosiveness. But I felt like for the sake of the video, I had to throw something in for the weaknesses. But really, there are none for Cade Cunningham. I think that, again, no-brainer. This guy will change the franchise. And I'm just wondering if Detroit can actually harness this player's potential. His player comparable, Luka Doncic, for me, he's just like Luka Doncic. I think that comparison is there because they're good at everything, and they may not be the most gifted athletes, but because of how smart they are and how talented they are as basketball players, they make their teammates better while also being, I think, a superstar. And Cade Cunningham is destined to become that. So easy one there. Another pretty easy one. Let's move on to the second overall pick, where I believe the Houston Rockets will be selecting Jalen Green. I think he's the second best player in the draft. He is an absolute sniper, a fantastic scorer, and just a pure shooting guard, something that I would have really liked to have seen on the Raptors, but unfortunately, Raptors did not end up with this 2 spot. So it is going to be the Houston Rockets, I believe, selecting this player. Again, insane shooting, just a very good shooting guard, creates his own shot at any level. He's got a good size at 6'6". So even though he's not the greatest defender, his size will allow him to keep up in the NBA. Very athletic, and he's got this tenacity that, not everybody possesses, and that will seriously help him with scoring, especially in his early days. And the last one is first overall pick upside, which I'm covering just a little bit there. In other drafts, this guy goes first overall, and if you told me that in a few years he'd be the best player to come out of this draft, I believe you. I wouldn't really argue it because I can absolutely see it. As far as the weaknesses goes, I feel like he goes around contact a little bit too much when it comes to drawing fouls, so I think he needs to go through contact a little bit more in the NBA to get those fouls, get those points to the line, or else he's going to have a bit more difficulty scoring. And then you look at his turnovers. I feel like he turns off the ball a little bit, but again, I'm being quite picky here about Jalen Green. There really is not a lot of weaknesses about his game. Just for the sake of the video, going to throw them in. So again, second most talented player in the draft. I don't think that he's the best fit for Houston, but you got to go with talent that is here. Houston are in rebuild mode, and this is a very good player to build around. And I think there was a lot of pick and roll capabilities between him and Christian Wood that I think that's going to look really nice in the court. Houston fans are going to be super excited about this player coming to their team. So let's move on to the player comparable. I find him as a little bit of a mixture between Clyde Drexler and Kobe Bryant. Now, big shoes to fill with Kobe, of course, but the way Clyde Drexler could kind of maneuver his way to the rim, maneuver his way past players to create his own shots, is what I see in Jalen Green. and that just tenacious, pure shooting guard sniper of Kobe Bryant. That's where I find this little bit of a cosmic gumbo between these two players when I see Jalen Green. That's how I feel about the player comparable. So with that, let's move on to pick number 3. Keep it rolling. Third overall pick. This one's a little bit difficult to predict, but I think that Evan Mobley is ultimately going to go to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Not the best fit, but talent-wise, as we'll see later, talent-wise, it makes sense. This guy's putting up a ton of points, a ton of rebounds. At about 7 feet tall, he is such a unique player. He's got great shooting percentages. The three-point percentage, even 30%, is quite nice for a player of his size. Shot 12 for 40 in college from 3, which is great. 2.9 blocks per game. Lots to like about his game. You know, the athleticism for that height, the fact that he can handle in the full court. He's got a very good touch at the rim. And, you know, the blocks. The blocks at 2.9 a game. It's not just the fact that he can block shots because he's tall. His timing is great, which means he doesn't foul very often. He can rebound on both ends of the court, and the shooting mechanics are there. So, outside chance that he can develop the outside game. I wouldn't even say an outside chance. A very good chance he's going to develop a solid three-point game in the NBA. That makes him terrifying at 7 feet tall. But now, the weaknesses, not that strong for his size. So when he's got to defend like an actual bully in the paint, let's say like DeAndre Ayton, he might struggle a little bit on defense. Needs to bulk up for the NBA. And his body type, you can ask questions about his body type that sometimes caters towards the fact that he can get injured. Just the joints, it's tough on the joints. So his body type, I'd be a little bit worried about. That's pretty picky though. And his jump shot's still developing. It's not quite there yet. His NBA readiness is in question because that stuff is developing. But I think Cleveland, I think they're making the right choice here. I think Cleveland are making the right choice here. Problem is they've got Jared Allen. So this is not a great fit, but talent-wise, especially in the top 4, you go for talent over fit. Now, Cleveland likely have to shop Jared Allen. Masai Ujiri, are you listening? And reports are suggesting that Masai and the Raptors are hugely interested in signing this player. But City will rally behind this player. This is somebody the city of Cleveland will get behind for sure. And just kind of a question, is the NBA going back to this big oriented dynamic? Because now we're seeing Giannis as the finals MVP. We're seeing Jokic as the MVP. Embiid would have won it if he had stayed healthy. Like, bigs are starting to be a little bit more prominent in the NBA. Do you guys think it's returning to that? I don't think so, but do you guys think it is? Are Cleveland thinking that maybe it is, and that's why they're going to go for Mobley? We'll have to see. Player comparable for me, Chris Bosh has been floated around, but I see a lot of Kevin Garnett here because, you know, Kevin Garnett isn't just, you know, an actual big man, like your average big man. This is a guy who can really ball handle on the full court and create his own shooting opportunities, and he can space the floor and he can hit jump shots off the dribble. Like, this is a very unique type of player, especially in his Timberwolves days. Like, I love watching clips of Kevin Garnett playing at Team USA camps because you expect him to be like, you know, this big, but this guy can actually sauce up some of the best defenders in the league for the time and create his own shots. And Evan Mobley definitely fits into that category as well. So there's my player comparable. So the big one, pick number 4 for the Toronto Raptors. And, you know, we're a little bit nervous. Reports are floating that the Raptors might want to go for Scottie Barnes at number 4, but I do not have Scottie Barnes here. And the Raptors don't trade up. They will not make the mistake. They will draft Jalen Suggs in this position. Showed some great stats in college. Was a leader of Gonzaga, who almost went undefeated, but for a loss in the national championship game. The field goal percentages are great. He's a good defender, very good point guard, and there's a lot to like about his game. Good playmaker, excellent athletics and footwork because he was actually the top prospect in high school for basketball and football in Minnesota. So that is great to see because those athletics are going to come into play in the NBA. But even with those athletics, very smart as a basketball player, can rebound, can play great defense. The efficiency, as you saw, was there, over 50% from the field and 33% from 3. You know, a lot of guys criticize Jalen Suggs for not being a good shooter, but I mean, 33% from 3, almost 34. That is fine for a college player, especially one who's going to come into the NBA and work on that with his shooting mechanics, especially with a Raptors development team. One of the best things about Jalen Suggs' game as well as the intangibles, he's a leader on the court and just a great guy to have for your team. This pick makes sense for the Raptors. Some weaknesses, you know, people criticize the 3-point percentage, but I don't really see it. 33.7 is fine for a college player, and that can definitely improve in the NBA. I say a little bit of one-dimensional about his game, though, because not always a pull-up jumper. He likes to get to the rim. He relies a lot on his athleticism to get to the rim, where the athleticism isn't going to carry him in the NBA. So he's got to add a little bit more to his game in terms of, you know, pick and pop jumpers. and shooting from the outside just to keep the defense guessing a little bit. My orange one here, his clutch ability, not really a weakness because it's just not really his game. And I know you guys, shut up. You're already commenting about Jalen Suggs' half-court winner in March Madness. That's one shot, okay? As a whole, he is not the go-to guy in the clutch in terms of just giving the ball, he'll get a bucket. Other than that one moment, which is very famous for good reason. His clutch ability isn't quite there, but that's not really an indictment against Jalen Suggs. It's just that the Raptors need somebody with that. Give him the ball in the half court, in the clutch, and he'll get you a bucket. Jalen Suggs isn't that guy. Unfortunately, I believe Jalen Green is that guy. We're not going to be able to get him just because he is projected to go at number 2, in my opinion. But lots to like about Jalen Suggs. This is the most talented player left in the draft at this point. The top 4 of the draft is just way above anybody else in the draft, in my opinion. I think this is a perfect Kyle Lowry replacement. He's ready to start. I think he's going to immediately have a role in the NBA. I believe he's going to start the Raptors draft. It might have Gary Trent Jr. being the 6th man and start Jalen Suggs with Fred VanVleet. That would definitely expedite the process of developing Jalen Suggs as well. And this is a very low risk pick. You don't have to bet on any upside here. You know what he is. You know he's talented. You know he's got the upside. Don't go for Scottie Barnes this one aside, please. Player comparables here. I have Kyle Lowry and Brandon Roy. I'm going to start with the Brandon Roy one. Just the way he kind of glides past people with that frame and getting to the rim, relying on his athleticism. Obviously, knee injury really derailed Brandon Roy's career, but I see that style of play in Jalen Suggs, but also the basketball mind of Kyle Lowry in Jalen Suggs and his ability to influence, maybe not being the most talented all the time, but with that great basketball mind to bring other players into the game, to make his team better, to win. Winning mentality. Jalen Suggs shares that with Kyle Lowry. So pick number 5. This is where, maybe a little bit of discrepancy here, but I think that the Orlando Magic are going to go for Jonathan Kuminga in this one. They're going to bet on that upside because he had a decent G League season here. Obviously, the field goal percentage are something to worry about, but there is a lot to like about Jonathan Kuminga, and there is a reason scouts are so high on him. It's just the shooting is quite broken at this point, but the good things about his game, he is so athletic. He has a great height, great wingspan, and the explosiveness, the quick twitch athlete going with that athleticism lets him blow by players like they're not even there. And when it comes down to it, he's got the soft touch at the rim. The jump shot is where he really let down his field goal percentages, but he can get to the rim and finish with ease in the full court. This guy is going to be a problem for a lot of NBA teams. He rebounds well. There is so much potential for Jonathan Kuminga in the NBA, and I think that Orlando are going to bet on that. Problems with his game, there's quite a bit here. So his shooting, as we saw with the field goal percentages, the shooting is not good. The field goal percentages are not good. They need a lot of work. There is the mechanics there to work on it, but lots of work to do. He's extremely raw. He showed some inconsistency after a great start to the G League where people were calling him to be the number 1 pick. Fell off, now might even fall all the way down to 7th in the draft, but I have him at 5. One-dimensional again a little bit just because he doesn't have that jump shot. Will his athleticism carry him in the NBA, letting him get to the rim? We'll have to see. That remains to be seen. But for now, that's definitely a problem for this player. There's also question marks about his intangibles because he doesn't really play that team basketball style where he can make his teammates around him better. That's something that scouts have talked about. And some scouts have also mentioned that even though he has the potential to be a great defender, doesn't really always have that drive to be great on defense and kind of conserves his energy here. So if the NBA team who drafts him can help him get that drive, this can be one of the best two-way players in the game. There is so much potential for this player. I understand why teams are looking at him. This is a kind of Masai Ujiri style player. This is, the freak athlete that teams always look for in the draft, and he's the most athletic player in the draft. This is a promising player. Also, playing in the G League helps that he's played with grown men, and he's showcased that even with the grown men there, his athleticism can still kind of carry him. So he's an absolute freak. Magic have time to bet on his upside here, just for the explanation on this one over Scottie Barnes. They have time to bet on the upside here. This is a rebuilding type of player for a rebuilding type of team. And again, he's got no number 1 overall pick upside, just like Jalen Green, I think. He could turn into the best player from this draft. It's just, he's got a very low floor, but a very high ceiling and a long way to go to get to that ceiling, but it is there. Also, drafting a small forward here will keep the ball in Cole Anthony's hands, allow him to make the decisions for the Orlando Magic on offense. I think that would significantly help them. They don't need another ball handler. He fits nicely with the roster. And I think his shooting projection in the NBA is going to be higher than Scottie Barnes, who I believe is going to go next. But player comparable here, Dominique Wilkins, the same style of player who relied on his athleticism, one of the best dunkers of all time. One thing Dominique had that Kuminga needs to work on is Dominique did have that mid-range game to rely on when he couldn't drive to the rim, but Kuminga seriously needs to work on that. But the athleticism getting to the rim reminds me a lot about early Dominique Wilkins. Pick number 6, obviously for me, it has to be Scottie Barnes here. They're going to bet on that upside. I think Scottie Barnes and Kuminga, there's a bit of separation for them at 5 and 6 compared to the rest of the lottery pack. And I think that OKC are going to be willing to take a chance on this player who, a little bit of underwhelming stats in college. I will admit, it's not the best statistics here. Masai has a big interest in him. The Raptors have a big interest in him. And I think there is a reason for that. I just really hope the Raptors don't reach for him at number 4. It actually terrifies me. It keeps me up at night thinking about the Raptors drafting Barnes at number 4. Don't do it. Good field goal percentages, not so great free throw and 3-point field goal percentages, but lots to like about his game. Again, it's the athleticism about this player and his wingspan. He's about 6'6", but he has a 7'1" wingspan and a 9-foot standing reach. That combined with great athleticism and ball handling makes him such a unique player. Actually, played as a point guard for Florida State, and he can play anywhere in the first 4 positions and can defend the 1 through 4 as well. His switchability would be very nice. That's, again, another reason why the Raptors are interested in him, but OKC, I feel like, are going to take this one on. Good passer, good at finishing, getting the switch abilities. He's a really nice player to have in your rebuild just because of the intangibles. Nice guy to have in the locker room. Just hypes you up on the bench. Liked what I saw from him in his college days. Weaknesses, though, not a very good scorer, only 10 points per game. Good at finishing at the rim, shot 62% from the field at the rim, but inconsistent shooting. Not a good jump shot, makes him one-dimensional, which could help the defense collapse on him, collapse in the paint, and that would make it a lot harder for his playmaking to shine and the free throws. Man, if you're finishing at the rim constantly and you can't shoot free throws, you better expect to get hacked at the rim. He's got to work on that. Shooting mechanics, by the way, something I don't have here. Shooting mechanics also aren't the best for Scottie Barnes. That is something that OKC or whoever drafts him seriously needs to work on if they want to take him, because the shooting mechanics aren't quite there like I saw for Kuminga. Lots of work needed for him to become an actual shooter here. But again, fits the OKC rebuild timeline. He's a nice spark, again, with the intangibles for the young core. I think a defensive team of Barnes and Dort will be absolutely sensational to watch. Like, it'd be so hard to score against them. And he's the most talented player left here. They have time to bet on the upside. It makes sense for OKC to take this player at 6. I expect OKC to take whoever falls out of Kuminga and Barnes. I don't think they're going to reach for anybody else. Player comparable here, Draymond Green has been thrown around just because Draymond Green's a solid player who can do a lot of things, who plays above his size, who's very lengthy, and sometimes can be the ball handler, just like Scottie Barnes, who actually plays as a point guard, similar to the frame of Magic Johnson. I think this is a bit of a Walmart version of Magic Johnson, and if you're going to be a Walmart version of any player, Magic Johnson's not a bad one to be a Walmart version of, and that's not really criticism. That's just saying he's not Magic Johnson. But that frame mixed with the handles and the playmaking reminds me a little bit about MJ. But let's move on to the next pick, the Golden State Warriors at number 7. So from this point of the video onward, it's very difficult to kind of gauge who is going to go where, because I think the top 6 is going to be the top 6. Order could change a little bit for the top 4, not really though. And for 5 and 6, you could interchange Kuminga and Barnes. But 7 onwards, lots of people have their opinion, and this is just going to be mine about the rest of the pack. This could go a lot of different ways, but I believe the best player for the Golden State Warriors to take here is Moses Moody. And the reason for this is because Golden State need immediate help for their team. Their championship window is kind of closing with Curry, Clay, and Draymond. They're going to add in somebody who helps with that, and Moses Moody is a great scorer to add in. 16.8 points per game. This is a very good shooting guard to have in your team. Decent shooting percentages, but I really like that 3-point field goal percentage and the free throw percentages. Quite nice, good shooting stroke on this player, mixed with good size, 6'6", good wingspan, 7'1", very nice, can score at any level, very good on defense, is a very good 3-and-D type of player, can rebound, has good handles, could create his own shot as well, and he can move off the ball really well to get his points as well. So even as a ball handler or an off-ball player, he will be effective for the team who drafts him. And he's NBA ready. He'll come in and help this Warriors team who is hunting another championship with this Steph Curry era. Weaknesses about his game, not the most explosive player, but he is smart, so it makes up for it. And his dribble to drive game doesn't do the best at getting down and getting to the rim, but you want him to be a little bit of a 3-and-D plus type of player. So not that important. Athleticism lets him down a little bit just because he doesn't have that explosiveness. Playmaking, just shooting guard, so it's not that big a deal. That's why it's in orange. I don't really mind if a shooting guard doesn't have the best playmaking. It's nice to have, but I can live without my shooting guard having the best playmaking. Moving on to explaining why I think this makes sense. Again, the championship timeline is closing. They need to add in scorers and contributors right now. And there is an emphasis right now in the NBA on getting those 3-and-D role players for your championship rosters. This guy fits definitely into that. He'll give you some great scoring off of the bench. He'll help, I think, immediately. And he's one of the youngest players in this draft class. So this will be great for the Warriors to bring in Moses Moody, who's already NBA ready and has some good potential for the future. I think it'll be a good piece as well for the rebuild in the future if that does happen. Player comparable, plays very similar to Mikal Bridges, and you saw the impact Mikal Bridges had on the Suns, especially in their almost championship run. There is an emphasis on 3-and-D players in the current NBA. Moses Moody, he plays like a 3-and-D player, but Mikal Bridges isn't just 3-and-D. There's a lot of other things that's great as well. The same goes for Moses Moody. Now, pick number 8, Orlando is back on the board, and I think that the Orlando Magic are going to be looking keenly at James Bouknight. James Bouknight has showcased some great talent over the course of his 2 years in college, but his pre-draft workouts have gone very well, and a lot of scouts are keen on this player. Ton of points, a very good score. Field goal percentages aren't the greatest, but let's get into a little bit about why he's so good, and we'll address those field goal percentages because his shot creation is off the charts. He's one of the best shot creators in the draft. Can create his own shot and pull up for that jump shot and hit a ton of those shots, but also doesn't have to pull up because he's great at slashing, can score anywhere in the 3 levels. He's a very slithery type of player because he is so thin, and with that hyper athleticism, gets him to the rim, gets him his own shots. He is very good at ball handling as well. Lots to like about James Bouknight. Kind of flirted with, maybe going later in the lottery, but I think that after the workouts, teams are going to be looking at him this high. The athleticism also helped him get a ton of rebounds. There is some very good upside about this player, and the Orlando Magic, who need upside, who need that talent for the future, are going to be looking at him at number 8. Weaknesses: he has a negative assist to turnover ratio in his 2 seasons in college, although he wasn't playing with the most talented team. Still, somebody needs to work on. Not the strongest either. I just talked about his slithery frame. Leads to him not being the strongest player. His playmaking also isn't great because, again, shooting guard, not the worst thing in the world. With all those turnovers, does need to work on his ability to drive and kick out when that slashing opportunity isn't there. Something Orlando will have to harness over the course of his potential NBA career with Orlando. So again, shooting percentages, as we saw, weren't great. But this guy has had some phenomenal workouts where he is shooting lights out in these pre-draft workouts. So anybody who is nervous about that 3-point percentage has had their nerves settled by watching this player in these pre-draft combines. He will really help with Orlando's wing depth needs. He'll pair nicely in a backcourt, I believe, with Cole Anthony. He'll have a very good role on the team immediately off the bench, a good score off the bench. Fits the rebuild timeline. And I think there's going to be a lot of teams who are hoping he would fall further, who will not get the chance to draft him. But I think he's very reminiscent of Jordan Clarkson. Can score at 3 levels, can get his own shot, but also can play off ball. This type of player definitely fits for James Bouknight. Now, pick number 9. I feel very confident that the Sacramento Kings are going to go with Franz Wagner if they end up keeping their pick, which seems like they're trying to aggressively shop it. But Franz Wagner, good stats, well balanced, nothing really negative about his game. You're pretty happy with all the things you see there. And for his frame at 6'9", you can like him in the small forward position. It's a position that the Kings do need to address. And basically what I see from this player is he's just good at a lot of different things, especially combined with that basketball IQ. There's nothing he's very poor at other than maybe lacking that athleticism and ISO defense. There is good things about his game. He's a decent defender. He's a decent player all around just because of his basketball smarts, which will let him be effective in the NBA. And it's a low risk pick for the Kings if they do take on a player like this. But I feel like there's not a lot of upside about Franz Wagner. I don't think he's going to get some crazy potential, but the Kings, who have had so many drafts come and go where they didn't get the talent they needed, Marvin Bagley obviously will come to mind, getting drafted above Luka Doncic. My goodness, it's a low risk pick for the Kings to take on. I think that they will like this one. They need to give help to Fox and Alperen, and some 3-and-D with versatile defense for a Kings team. It was the worst defensive team in the NBA last season. I think that this player will help them. It seems like it's a very good bet that Franz Wagner goes to the Kings if they don't trade their pick. For the player comparable, we have Gordon Hayward. I think that they're very similar players. You know, not the most athletic guys because they're so calculated. They can get their own shots and be a scorer and also be effective from the outside. They can be a role player with some other good players in the team. You know, you've got De'Aaron Fox and Therese Halliburton. Gets out of their way and fit in the role. I think that this is a good comparison. Now, pick number 10. This is a very important pick for the Pelicans because they need to address the fact that they have not yet given Zion Williamson enough help in the league. And I think that this is the pick for them. Davion Mitchell, maybe a little bit of a hot take because he's been projected to go anywhere from 7 to 20, but I feel like this one makes sense for the Pelicans. His nickname is Off Night because when he defends, you have an off night. It's like the coolest nickname in all of sports. Shows a lot of good stats here, and the field goal percentage are definitely what you really like. Not quite the free throw percentage. It was a bit strange. It's almost 45% from 3 or 50% from the field, but free throw percentages are kind of down, which is a bit odd. But what to like about his game? Again, elite defender, best ISO defender in the draft, nicknamed Off Night for a reason. Three-point shooting was spectacular with those percentages there. Field goal percentages are also quite nice. He's a good playmaker as a point guard. Very explosive, which helps him again with that ISO defending, but also blowing by players and getting to the rim. We've seen him in big game dynamics in March Madness. He's a national champion where he was great in the national championship game. Lots of intangibles. He's a great leader, was the leader of this Baylor team, again, helping them get to that championship. There's a lot to like about Davion Mitchell. Problems about his game. Really, it's not about the talent. It's the fact that he's short. He's 6'1" and he's almost 23, which leads some question marks about his upside. And of course, that awful free throw percentage that he seriously needs to work on. But because of his good shooting stroke, I think he will address it. But these are things you have to consider. Why this pick makes sense is that Zion Williamson needs help, and there is no time to gamble on upside. This is a pretty NBA-ready player who will help space the floor and help play make for Zion Williamson. Lonzo Ball also needs replacing. This helps out the Pelicans with a lot of their needs. With that great three-point percentage, clears out a bit of the floor for Zion to go and slash the rim. That was a bit of a problem last season, and I think this will help them with that. Now, player comparable, plays very similar to Drew Holiday in my opinion. That defensive mindset, that explosiveness, but also the ability to take care of business on offense. Next pick, pick 11, getting through the video. This one I believe is going to be Corey Kispert to the Charlotte Hornets. A very good scorer, a very good shooter, very good field goal percentages and free throw percentages. 18 points per game was the highest score on this Gonzaga team, who almost went undefeated again. And looking at his strength, NBA ready. As NBA ready as they come. Absolute sniper. This is what's going to have scouts really wanting him to come to the NBA and make an immediate impact on their team. Mixed with the fact that he's got a strong basketball mind, even though he's a good three-point shooter, knows how to get to the rim as well, can play off the ball, good at spacing the floor, so some other talented players like LaMelo Ball, Terry Rozier, and he fits into a role. He'll fit a very good role in the NBA right out of the gates, no doubt, in my opinion, and lots of good intangibles about him, which NBA scouts do like. Problem, weaknesses, not very athletic, but he makes up for it because he's a good shooter, good role player, knows how to play the game to his strengths. He's a little bit older, but you don't really need to bet on that upside because he's NBA ready. He's going to help your team right away. Defense maybe lacks a little bit of lateral quickness, which could be a bit of a problem, but his size and basketball smarts can make up for it a little bit here. Makes sense because Charlotte really were lacking wing depth last year, especially in the small forward position. This will be a very good backup for Gordon Hayward. He is NBA ready. He's going to help out an already talented team, and he's going to fit nicely with LaMelo and Terry Rozier in that system. He can shoot, they can slash, doesn't take away from their game. Player comparison, plays just like Joe Harris. Plays just like Joe Harris. This is the type of player that you need for your team to be an off-ball guy, fifth man in your lineup, who can hit his shots and not take touches away from your star players. Next pick, number 12. I think this is a match made in heaven. The San Antonio Spurs should select Alperen Sengun. Look at these unbelievable stats. Playing in a pro league in Turkey. These are monstrous numbers. Monstrous numbers. This guy's like 18 years old, tearing up one of the better pro leagues in the basketball world. 19 points per game, 64% shooting from the field. Oh my goodness. If the Raptors had the 10th pick, I would be all over this guy to come to the team. He plays bully ball. Even though he's way younger, he can still bully grown men. grown men get to the rim, gets any shot he wants at the rim. Got the half-court fundamentals. He's so calculated in his post moves, very good at backing down and getting his shots at the rim. Can handle a little bit in the full court. Has some good top-of-the-key playmaking, which the Spurs, I think, are going to like. He rebounds the ball very well, but he crashes the offensive board and gets a ton of offensive rebounds. Will work very well in the pick and roll, whether it be getting to the rim, whether it be that pick and pop with a jump shot. And he's got the three-point mechanics. He hit a couple threes. He hit some threes in the Super League in Turkey, but, still needs to work on the percentages, but he's got the mechanics to make it serviceable in the NBA. Weaknesses, not very quick. His perimeter defense is certainly lacking. If you get caught in the pick and roll with this guy, it's going to be a problem from a defense. You can blow by him with some ease. He's a little bit reluctant to shoot in the mid-range or from three. Needs to shoot a little bit more to kind of mix up his game. Not the most athletic guy, but because he's a bruiser and so calculated, that will help him. And his length in the position isn't great. Very tall at 6'11", but doesn't really have the complete length to guard at the rim, which maybe is a little bit of a weakness, but I think there is so much to like about him. This is a perfect pick for the Spurs. This is a franchise center, I believe, in the making. Very high ceiling, and Spurs are a great team to work with. Greg Popovich is a great guy to work with to harness his potential. And the fact you've got Tim Duncan on your coaching staff who's going to be working with this player, this makes so much sense for the Spurs to take this player. Great fit for both parties. Plays exactly like Domantas Sabonis. Can do a lot of great things on the court, but ultimately can be that bruiser down low to get his points. But also has that soft touch when necessary. Very similar to Domantas Sabonis. He's been compared to Jokic, but I like this comparison a little bit more. So, second to last pick, Indiana Pacers with pick number 30 going to take Josh Giddey. If he is not already taken, I don't think he will be, but played in the Australian League just like LaMelo Ball, playing with grown men, showcase some good stats. 10, 7.5, and 7.5. Basically a triple-double in the making if he plays a little bit more minutes. It's possible with his height. He's a jumbo guard, 6'8" point guard. Lots to like about his game. Field goal percentage are a little bit low, but I can forgive that a lot more when he's playing with grown men rather than, other students and rather college prospects. What you like about his game, again, jumbo guard at 6'8", very good playmaker, very smart basketball player, can get rebounds, can get assists, good ball handling, and he's NBA ready with a ton of good upside. Weaknesses, not the quickest, not the greatest athleticism in terms of the lateral quickness and explosiveness. And the field goal percentages, like I said, they're not great, but I'm going to forgive that because he's playing with grown men in the Australian League. LaMelo Ball didn't have good percentages in the Australian League, but he came into the NBA and was shooting great. So, stuff that you can work on. I don't think that's going to be a problem. This makes sense for a team, the Pacers, who need some guard depth. This is a good bench option to play behind Brogdon and LeVert, and I think that it's a nice rotation. Can play behind them, or if he has to, he can play with them on the court. Good long-term replacement potentially for Brogdon if he does leave. I believe he has 1 year left on his contract, and it's a pretty good player to build around, that jumbo guard type of player. He'll have an immediate role with the team. This pick is great for the Pacers if he does fall to them. Player comparable for me is Brent Barry. Maybe not quite as athletic, but because he's got so many different skills to his game, has that craftiness and the smarts and a little bit of the sauciness, just like Brent Barry did. I also see a bit of a light version of Luka Doncic and Josh Giddey. You have to say that when you have that oversized point guard who can just do everything. He has the capabilities of doing everything on the court, triple-double potential. And I can see him going higher. I just didn't really see the fit and a team needing that sort of player a little bit earlier on. So I think Pacers at 13, good spot. Now, last pick of the lottery, last pick of the video. It's a marathon of a video. If you're still here, congratulations. Thank you so much for watching. But let's get into the pick. This one's a bit of a hot take. I think Keon Johnson has fallen a little bit down in his draft profile, but I think he's too talented to pass up on in the lottery. I think Golden State are going to take a chance on this player because of his upside. Now, again, I said earlier in the video, they do require some NBA ready help, and I kind of toyed with picking between Keon Johnson and Chris Duarte a lot, but ultimately, I'm going to go with Keon Johnson for the upside, and he's an NBA-ready defender. Got jump out of the gym athletics, a good draft age, good size for the shooting guard / small forward position. Got a nice shooting stroke, even though the percentages aren't quite there yet. Can play great defense. He's a hustle guy, and he's a good role player for the team. Now, problem, not quite NBA-ready. He's extremely raw. Didn't have a great college role with the Tennessee Volunteers because he was coming off the bench, but there's a lot to like about his game. Got the shooting mechanics. The defense is NBA ready. Maybe not a lot of other stuff. And I think that for that reason, the Warriors might take a chance on him just because they're going to go with such an NBA ready player earlier on in the draft. But could ultimately go for Chris Duarte as well. I'm going to say it's kind of 50-50. Just decided to do Keon Johnson for this video. Opportunity for upside again at 14. They could use some help on defense. Maybe take some bit of the defensive load off of Steph Curry coming off the bench. I don't think that this is an idiotic take for the Warriors to take on this player and take him at number 14. Also, there's potential for the Warriors to trade this pick on. I think that Keon Johnson has the most value left in the draft at this position at 14. So if the Warriors want to trade him for something more NBA ready, that could also make sense for them to do. That's why I'm going to put him here. Player comparable, I think he's kind of like Jalen Brown in terms of what he can do. His athleticism. Jalen Brown has developed his jump shot a lot since coming into the NBA. And I think Keon Johnson could follow suit. Obviously, Jalen Brown, really good shooter now. Keon Johnson, not that, but Jalen Brown, you look at his college stats, wasn't a good shooter then. He developed it as he came into the NBA. But that is it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for just watching this video. If you are, so be sure to hit that like button, smash the like button for the long video, for the amount of work I put in on this video. Would really mean a lot to me, guys. And remember that we are going to be doing a more in-depth version, if we can even do that, a more in-depth version plus Q&A about the picks on the Twitch channel tomorrow, twitch.tv/amateur sports, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. That's Tuesday, July 27th. And of course, we will be live streaming the draft lottery on stream as well, Thursday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. You know, you can enhance your viewing experience with a group of Raptors fans who are psyched about it. We can talk about the picks, we can talk about what the Raptors are doing, and all of that good stuff. Remember as well to subscribe to the channel on a road to 5,000 subscribers. You can help us get there by subscribe. Would really mean a lot to me if you guys did help us get there. And check out some other videos on the channel. And always remember, at the end of the day, believe what I say, and if you disagree, that is okay. We'll see you again next time for another video.